And salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru, aka also known as Dean Tinney. We're here for our weekly live stream, which is always Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time. Hold on, just got to get rid of this.
Dean, we can't see you.
I know. I'm trying to. I'm backstage fixing it right now. There we go. Hey, well, now let's get rid of that one too. We don't want that one either. We want this one. There we go. Yeah. And my always very special guest, Brian Lee, also known as the Test Geek, managing member Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. We're here for fun and fellowship, but mostly about test content. So if you have some content, questions you'd like to go over, we're here for that. Let's just go over quickly some things that are available. The SIE Exam podcast series is now complete. So there's a third now playlist for the SIE podcast episodes. Brian and I are just coming off the holidays, so we're going to get that fired up. I think we got another episode. Brian, you and I can backstage figure out when the best time to do that is.
Yes, sir.
If you have a question for us, it'll help us pull this out from the chat. If you put a capital SIE or S7 with a capital Q, followed by your question, then it's easier for us to pull that out of the chat, while you chat with each other and talk to victorious test takers, whatever, is going on in the chat. So if you can help us, that's fine. If you forget that, that's okay. It just saves us from time going, are you taking the SIE? Are you taking the 7? Are you taking this? Because, it varies on the test. 2 paid supplements. The best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel. But if you're looking for a paid supplement, I highly recommend the Kaplan Q Bank. If you're taking Series 7, for example, with my 15% discount code, you can get that for $58.50. Brian, I had somebody who said, why would you want this guy in social media? Why would you want to have do 3,200 questions when you can do 1,000 with STC? I said, well, that is not a competitive strength to have fewer questions rather than more questions. So
they're more repetitive.
That's right. And you can memorize the Q Bank a little easier. And then if you are still looking for a paid supplement past that, Brian's got the best paid supplement. His is the whole course, basically, the whole all-in video course for each of the series. And Brian's been kind enough to give our viewers and subscribers a 20% discount on his content, and that's Guru 20. Highly recommend it. Did the price increase for 2024 already go through? It did. All right. So what's the new retail price on
with the discount all in, it's 103.
103. There we go. That's not bad. Not bad at all.
Still pretty good. Yeah.
I think it's very good. If you miss one of our live streams on Tuesday, you can always get it as a podcast episode on either YouTube or Spotify. And if you're trying to get the best use out of the channel, please, there's 700 videos, 1,000 hours of video content. If you go to the video thing and it's like trying to pick a needle out of a haystack, what you want to do is go to your series exam playlist. And it'll say, for example, SIE playlist 1 of 3. The playlists are in suggested order. The videos within them are in suggested order. It's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. That's great for binging. If you're looking for a particular product, type of content, use the channel search bar. It's kind of exasperating, Brian, but do you have a video on accrued interest? I got like a dozen of them. So you go to the channel search bar, you put in accrued interest, and poof, show up margin, whatever it is. So use that channel search bar if you're trying to find a particular thing. We do a drawing at the end. It's 30-minute coaching call. Please pay attention. I've got 2 or 3 people who are sending me emails that they won this thing 3 or 4 months ago, and now they'd like to claim it. I make it very clear, if you do not claim that within 1 hour of that closing, then you are not entitled to the coaching call. You can assign it. You can share it. It'll be taped. It'll be shared. I don't know, Nico, if you're in the chat. I know I got to set something up with you. Ivy, if you're in the chat, I got to set something up with you in last week's winner. So I'll be on that tomorrow morning as I get caught up. I just got back on the grid from my off the grid undisclosed location. So I've got some catching up to do, and I'll be doing that first thing in the morning. All right, let's see what we got going on in the chat. Boo, 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 boo. Barney, if you can give me the series exam for that QID you mentioned, I will dig it out of the Kaplan Q Bank. And if I can't find it and do it here, I will do it. Looking for an answer on that question and its reasoning. Well, Barney, again, I need to know what series. A QID is kind of meaningless to me unless you tell me, Is it in the Kaplan Series 7 Q bank, the 66 Q bank, the 63 Q bank? So just tell me what series that is, and I'll be more than happy to help you out on that. 7 from Minnesota. I was complaining, Nick, about my new operational off-grid Series 7 Guru Studios being cold. And somebody in that test run, Ryan said, I'm in Minnesota. I go, oh, my bad. Sorry. I should be being cold. Good evening, Isaac. Good evening. Happy New Year, indeed. I am hoping for you guys a happy and prosperous New Year 2024 for you and yours. I had a great 2023. I'm looking forward to even better 2024. Brian has teased me that I've came out to Las Vegas to retire, and I'm kidding myself that I am not really retired. And I have to admit, Brian, I think you're kind of right. I'm kind of like going, okay, I'm back in. So maybe I'll retire in that off-grid location. Yeah.
And we're hitting the Hawthorne Cafe on Friday night with cigars and scotch.
I love it. I love it. So Brian and I have our little blaze. Hi, Casey. Series 65, investment advisor representative. Casey, Brian and I think have come to the conclusion for a certain element of folks, test takers, we think that is the hardest exam.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Casey, what your background is, but Brian and I have a podcast series on 65. I highly recommend. We have an episode. Who takes it? Is that what that episode was?
Yeah, first episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we'll do, Casey, I'll link that in the video description for you. Check it out because we go over who might be a risk. I summarize, Casey. Brian and I think people who are in production already, who are distracted by other things. I mean, important things like making money and, older folks, families, and, stuff. We get it. And then people have no background at all in just taking a 65 cold. They don't have a 6, a 63, or any of that kind of stuff. So I don't know, Casey, you're in there, but it's definitely doable. And then I heard some crazy people telling people they should take a 63, 65 instead of a 66, which I think is just stupid. If you have a 7, you don't want to take a 63, 65. You want to take a 66. Question. Taking the Series 7, the 18th, finish the Kaplan book. I am so happy to hear that. I get people over and over and again. Do I have to read the book? The answer is yes. I think they think if they ask it 20 times, the 20th time, Brian, I'm going to say, oh, no, we just tell people that because we're trying to waste their time. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear you because what should be my strategy? Brian is very, very good. Let me give him his whole board there. He is really good at
this is one of my fortes.
It really is. Really
blogs, I've done videos, short YouTube shorts. This is how I think the perfect thing, most efficient, get you out of this test world in the most shortest amount of time. Now that you've read the textbook and the QBank, what I believe is most important is now consolidation, distilling that god-awful amount of information from those textbooks and consolidate that information. What I like to say, those of you who have been here with us before, you've heard this many times, turning mashed potatoes into premium vodka. That's what our video courses, whether it be Dean's, whether it be mine, right? That's what's going to happen is to distill all this information, concentrate to the most testable material. Then probably about 10 days, 7 to 10 days from your test date, that's when you want to do the practice finals to evaluate and remediate. Evaluate, find out your weak areas, ramp up on those weak areas, take another practice final. So practice finals, evaluate and remediate. So there's basically, I call it the 3-pillar process. There you go.
Yeah, I would just add to that too, that if you're using Kaplan, it's very helpful because Kaplan has a performance tracker, which makes it easier for you to find the areas that you need to remediate. So, and it says you're using, I think I'm pronouncing that, Mari. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It says you are using Kaplan, so I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. You are struggling, Anita. I'm struggling with options, net debit, net credit, spreads, and straddles. Well, this is really not the appropriate venue, Anita, to do a options lecture. I will link and I will comment briefly on this. And Brian wants to try and do something on his dry erase board. That would be
that's okay.
Okay. So what you're asking us about is what's called advanced option strategies, Anita. Multiple option strategies. So the first thing I would say is you shouldn't be in advanced option strategies, multiple option strategies until you really got the basics and the hedges down. Because the vast majority of your option questions are going to be on the basics and the hedges. You know, people are either coming to the market to speculate or they're coming to hedge. Now, I think one of the things here that I can be helpful on is you might be thinking these are separate things. They are not. There's not net debit, net credit, and spreads. There's spreads. In the category of spreads, spread means difference. I was just talking to Brian before we started the live stream. What's the spread? Spread just means simply difference. And so when we hear the word spread, we think difference. And what we mean here is the difference in the premiums. Money out, money in. Now, net debit means you've got money out. That means, Anita, you're buying an option. And we should know whether we're buying a spread, buying a straddle, buying a call, buying a put, that when we spend money out of pocket, the worst case is we're going to lose it, right? So in a net debit spread, what I'm doing is selling the other option to lower my out-of-pocket cost and therefore lower my risk, draw the break even a little closer to me. Because all these speculative strategies, Anita, you're either buying volatility or you're selling volatility. Volatility is either your friend or your enemy. And so when you got money out of pocket, you need movement. And so if you have less money out of pocket, you need less movement. That's the point of a debit spread. In a credit spread, you go, you know what? A naked call doesn't sound so great. I think what I'll do is take some of my money and do some construction and put in a ceiling. It's still long and short. That's what spreads are, long and short, the same type of contract. So we have call spreads, we have put spreads. Now I call, Anita, don't hate the 8. What I mean by that is 8 testable points about a spread. Can you identify a spread? Long and short, the same type of option. Can you determine debit or credit? That's your thing there. Money out or money in, debit or credit. Can you determine exercise or expire? Do you want the contracts to exercise? Now, whenever you buy options, you want to exercise because otherwise you're going to lose your money. So it's always a good thing. When you collect money, you agree to be a potential victim. You're hoping nobody victimizes you. You get to go neener, neener, neener. You get to keep the money. So debit or credit, exercise or expire, widen or narrow. Do you want that difference? People can come on this. The difference to get larger or smaller, right? If I ask Brian about his bet on the game, I say, hey, Brian, what's the spread? Do you want it to be in the spread or out of the spread? Do you want a bigger difference in the scores or a smaller difference in the scores? Hardest part to get, you really don't need to get that, Anita, because debit, exercise, widen goes together all the time. I think of like Mountain Dew, just do it. And credit, expire, narrow goes together all the time. There is no circumstance in which you are not going to be correct. If you identify it as debit, tell me exercise, widen. There'll be no circumstance in which you get credit and you tell me expire, narrow, in which you will be wrong. Another trick, credit has 6 letters, expire has 6 letters, narrow has 6 letters, just a trick. Okay, I said 8. So far I said we've identified it, debit or credit, exercise or expire, widen or narrow. The next thing we got to do is max gain, max loss. And options are all about floors and ceilings. Floors and ceilings. So if I do a spread on Apple and Apple's 190, 200 are my strikes, there's 10 points to be made or lost. And I would think the easiest way to gain and loss is start with either debit, that's your loss, credit, that's your gain. By the way, that shouldn't be new. You pay money, worst case is you lose it. You collect money, best case is you keep it. Test taking trick, the gain and loss always equals this difference in the strike. So you can eliminate any answer offered to you that doesn't meet that parameter. I will link to video lectures, Anita, on this stuff to show this to you in the video description replay. So just looking at it, and you'll see where I've linked to it. Last thing we got to be able to do, last two things. Is it, what is the break even? Test taking trick. The break even is between the 2 strikes, right? So what are those 2 strikes are? Again, you can eliminate any offer answered to you that's outside of the range. So I said we're looking at an Apple spread with a 190 and 200 strike. So the break even somewhere between 190 and 200. It can't be 201. It can't be 188. It's got to be within that range. Now, Brian has been kind enough to put on his whiteboard another memory A. Cal and push for break even. If it's a call spread, Cal stands for call add to the lower. You take the lower strike, you add the net premium to that. If it's a put spread, push stands for put subtract from the higher. You take the higher strike and you subtract and it gives you break even. Last thing we've got to be able to do is determine whether the spread is bullish or bearish. And the way we do that, Anita, is the larger premium dominates the position. The larger premium dominates the position. So in my example, I said we have a 190 Apple strike 200. So now I'm going to tell you it's a call spread. And we should know that a 190 call is going to be the dominant leg. Lower strike calls always have lower premium. So if I buy it, it's a debit spread and it's bullish. And if I sell the 190, it's a credit spread and it's bearish. Larger premium dominates. Now, your other comment here, straddles. Again, this doesn't lend itself well. Our live stream, I'll link to an entire lecture on straddles. But there are 4 things you got to know about a straddle. I call this score 4 more. So, Anita, you got to be able to identify a straddle. It's like identifying a spread. If you can't identify the advanced option strategy, you're dead in the water. I mean, even if that wasn't a test question, Anita, I just told you it is. But even if it wasn't, if you can't identify a spread or a straddle is when you are long 2 different type of contracts or short 2 different type of contracts. It's called a straddle because you're straddling the strike price. You're straddling the strike price, right? And then we've got to be able to calculate the break evens. Anita, it's the only one where you have break evens, upside, downside. 3, you got to know where it's profitable. We have a great memory aid silo, short inside, long outside. And then we got to be able to, the 4th thing is when do you use it? As I said before, you're either buying volatility or selling volatility. Buy a straddle. You think it's going up or down, but direction's uncertain. Sell a straddle, trading range. So there's an overview of what you have to be able to do. I don't think, Anita, that discussion is, teaching you options or showing you this, but I will link to videos that do. And this next year, Anita, I am going back to doing live stream overtime sessions where we have a whiteboard, and this would be perfect for that. So I don't know when you're testing. Next Tuesday, after we're done with the live stream at 6 o'clock, it's free. You can find me with a whiteboard going over questions like this where I will actually show you the test points and how to do it, right? All right, there's our loyal viewer, Marcel. Hey, Marcel. Always tell Mom that you were in attendance and sent her hello. SIE December 23rd. I love it. That made your Christmas a lot better, Derek, I believe. I listened to your video on Spotify. Great. On to Series 7. Love it. I always say that SIE, that victory is so important because that lays the foundation for either going on to your 6 or your 7. I always joke the journey of 3-0 begins with 1-0. And I really, Derek, want people to overlearn the SIE. I had a guy the other day was, telling people barely, just get through it and then go on to your 7. I just don't agree with that. Don't just barely get through it. Boom, master. Because if you spend that time, it will pay huge dividends on your 6 or your 7. I think, Derek, you can almost pass out of a Series 6. You're not taking the 6, but I think if you do a good job on the SIE, you could pass out of a 6 almost without doing any additional work, depending on your study effort on the SIE. 7, that foundation that you laid with the basic options, some of that other stuff will help. Testimonial and advertising guidelines. Not something the horse is focused on, but I heard it's on the exam. Any insight on that? Well, there is a difference between advertising and testimonials. On the broker-dealer side, testimonials, you have to disclose whether somebody's been compensated or not. And on the investment advisory side, we don't allow endorsements. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Brian, in terms of that as a testimonial?
I have a testimonial short because if you remember, the SEC changed that rule.
That's right.
In 2022. So I do have a short little.
Is that free on your YouTube or is that?
No, if you email me, I'll be more than happy to send it out to you.
There you go. Every once in a while we get Brian in the Christmas spirit, the holiday spirit. And so let me just put up his email for you. I would definitely take him up on that. So this is something would be found within your teachable.
Specific to the SEC rule change.
I love it. Okay, so let me just put Brian's. If you'd like to accept Brian's offer for that, here's where you can reach him, Brian at testgeekexamprep.com. And he will send you the video that goes over that. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Brian. That's so cool. So, maybe
And
someday I'll talk them into going completely free. What's that?
It might affect one question on the test.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's why I kind of threw it to Brian. Hey, you want to how much time you want to spend on this, right? Be careful. Let me get rid of Brian's email there. Hold on. I would add, be careful talking to, we love having victorious test takers come back and tell us, what happened to them and what kind of draw. Did they get a dream draw? Did they get a face of death draw? But sometimes it can make people get wobbly. I have a young lady I'm working with, and I'm, oh my God, I think she's in social media too much, because whatever somebody says they saw, she just now goes down the rabbit hole on that, when the actual test is a balance of easy and difficult questions. And my experience has been, Brian, that what people aren't prepared for is what they think they had 100 of. So that's what tends to register. So just be careful, putting too much into somebody else's draw. I've had people swear to me they had no options, and I had people swear they have had 100 options. It's impossible. All right, so boom, boom, boom. There you go, Casey. I did receive that. Like I say, I'll be catching up with everybody this tomorrow morning, and so we'll get that on the schedule and get it done. So no worries, Casey. It wasn't you I was referring to. It wasn't you I was referring to. So we will get that done. Do municipals register with the state? They do not. They're exempt from registration at every level. You don't have to register. Municipal issuers are, the SEC has no authority over municipal issuers. Be careful what I'm saying here. The SEC has no regulatory authority over municipal issuers. Keyword, issuers. And the state administrator has no regulatory authority over municipal issuers. Now, remember, there are other participants in the municipal business, and they most certainly do have regulatory authority, but not under the issuers themselves. By the way, same thing for the MSRB. So Brian has been kind enough. He's now telling you things that do not need to be registered with the state.
Yeah, these are all four of these are common to both federal and state exemptions.
Yeah.
Govies, munis, banks, insurance companies, nonprofits, religious organizations. These two are kind of not really test-worthy that much, but these certainly are. So to answer your question, they are exempt under both federal law and state law.
Yeah. One other thing I would add to that, Trish, that doesn't mean I can rip somebody off using a government or muni security. No one and nothing is exempt from anti-fraud provisions. Right. So, but that being said, I always joke, Brian, when I'm teaching this concept, I say, the state administrator of the SEC, Dean, were you selling an unregistered security? I say, yes, but it was a U.S. Treasury bond, neener.
Yeah.
Or it was a municipal, ha, 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 And then I joke, don't really do that with regulators. They don't find that humorous.
They don't, do they? They're just not humorous.
They're not humorous people. So. Oh, sorry. I was doing so good. I was doing so good just till then. Oh, man. I was on it. Starting out with the SIE. Well, that's where everybody starts. Black Lavender 723. I like that. I think that should be like a scotch. Doesn't that sound like a scotch, Brian?
No, it sounds like a dog.
Oh, does it really? Black Lavender 723? If I saw a bottle on the top shelf of Black Lavender, I'd say.
Lavender. See, you're thinking Black Label. I'm thinking Black Lab.
Okay. Anyways, everybody starts with the SIE. That's the first. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are some people who work for fee-based investment advisors only, like Brian has up in his neck of the woods, Fisher Investments. And Fisher Investments doesn't have a broker-dealer, and they just take 65s. They don't take the SIB. But for most of us in the chat, we're going to take an SIE, then we're going to take either a Series 6 or a Series 7, and then we're going to take a 63, 65, or 66. So most of the testing journeys here, Black Lavender, or you're on the first leg of what for most people will be a three-legged test journey, right? SIE, 6 or 7, 63, 66, whatever. So 3, sometimes more. I have people now, Brian, being hired as compliance officers who have to take their SIE, their 7, their 66, and 24, all in 6 months. But for most of the part, that's the case. Nico, like I said, I'll be reaching out to you tomorrow to get that on the thing. Nico, it's got to be worked around my paid schedule. So I know you sent me your favorite date, but if that's open, fine. But if that's not open, then you'll have to work with me about what works. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say STC is horrible, Nick. I think STC, Pass Perfect, Kaplan, Knopman, I think are all reputable test prep vendors. And all of them, I think, have their strengths and their weaknesses. So I wouldn't go so far as to say they're horrible. I guess tough love, Nick. If you get a 45% on STC, I don't think that's on STC. I think that's on you, my friend. And then we need to talk about what we can do to bring that score up. Now, if you need a supplement, whether it's Brian's paid supplement, my channel, a Kaplan Q Bank, but we definitely need to get that up because there's just no way you have a chance to pass the 7 if you're getting 40. I would even say, what do you think, Brian? I've seen people once in a blue moon with a high 50 on a practice test still pass, very rarely.
Yes,
And then below 50 just means, Nick, you still have knowledge deficit. And what I mean by knowledge deficit, you should be not taking practice tests with that score. You should be laying more base knowledge would be my recommendation to you. And then go back and take another practice test. It's just not productive to be taking practice test after practice test with that kind of a score. So lay some more base. Circle back. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dean. It fits right in with what we had said earlier, right? Once you finish that textbook and practice questions, then supplement it, right, to consolidate that information. That helps to build and reinforce the foundation before you take your practice finals.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page there. So I would like to know, Nick, too, when is your test date? So, again, this 45% is more of a problem if you like your test is sooner rather than later, right? If this is the front end of your study effort, it's easily, fixed.
Right.
Not so much of, it's like tomorrow, I'm with you. I am with you. We ended the year with so many testing victories. It was ridiculous, Brian. I was just getting email after email, people passing this and passing that. And I thought it was so great to get all those testing victories before, Christmas and New Year's. And so now we're starting off the new year, and hopefully we can start out with that same positive vibes and passing scores. As Brian says, getting all those P's, all those answers. Chris, can any chance you can cover direct participation programs in oil and gas and real estate partnerships? Well, I've got good news for you, Chris. You could guess B on the SIE in every one of those questions and miss maybe 2 points. Right. So I don't think that's a target-rich environment for any exam. SIE, Series 7, in test parameters go way, way overboard. That being said, I would have a general understanding of a general partner. The general partner provides the experience. The limited partners provide the money. General understanding of limited partners are making investments into partnerships, and there's a general partner who manages the assets. And as oil and gas, it's mainly about the types. And I still don't even think you would see this on the SIE, but on 7, oil and gas exploratory wildcat is the most risky. But even then, one other thing I would add in the SIE is that they're not liquid. You can't get in or out of the partnership without the GP's permission. So in terms of suitability, that's fair game on the SIE that this should not be an investment vehicle for anybody who needs liquidity. The biggest part of the SIE is understanding product risk. And one of the risks in a partnership is, you can't get out of the thing when you want to. Brian, your thoughts?
Just one of a contextual, in case I'm reading that statement incorrectly, DPPs and oil and real estate partnerships are the same thing, right?
Yeah, they are. That's the subcategories types. I tell you what I will do, Chris. I will link to a video. I have a lecture on partnerships, but it's for the Series 7. I think it's totally overkill for the SIE. But if you want to watch it, it's 30 minutes and it would cover everything. I would rather Chris, again, I would rather you spend your time elsewhere for the SIE than this. What do you think, Brian?
Absolutely. I can think of 2, and I think you've already covered it.
Yeah.
And you are, your entire capital's at risk. And
yeah. Let me put it another way, Chris. If you tell me you missed your mark because of partnerships on the SIE, I'm going to say, you got bigger problems elsewhere, my friend. Smug Mug, Dean, you've been a lifesaver. I'll raise an adult beverage with a single ice cube in your honor. Well, thank you. How do you know how I drink my beverages? Brian, I don't know. We're going to have to consider this year. Chat is open. You guys could do me a favor. If I start doing things from my off-grid location, I post a little video of me doing that live stream. Is it appropriate if I'm off-grid? Because when I'm off-grid, I do usually have a scotch, a cigar, and I'm just wondering, I try and keep it professional in case training directors send people our way. But I think it'd be okay to have a little beverage. No, yes.
And by the way, Dean, I have the single cocktail ice cube maker in my phone.
Ooh. I have all kinds of forms that will make ice balls. Will make yeah. So, and I actually do have an ice maker out on off the grid for my the Series 7 Guru Studios. It's going to be a combination of a studio, Brian, and a man cave. So, I'm gonna have an area where I'm partitioning it into 3, where we have the studio like I have here, and then I'm gonna have another area where we can have podcasts together, where I can have guests, and then I'm gonna have a third area where it's like a sofa area where we could have like a group discussion. So, I'm pretty excited about
somewhere in the middle of Arizona. All right.
Yeah, there you go. Undisclosed location.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you what, Brian and I, when we do get together, always host an adult beverage in honor of you test takers and your victories. Yeah, I'm thinking this new year, 2024. Who would have thunk it? It's here, and I think it's it's gonna be good. Are you, Casey, on your try number 3 for the SIE? Are you 7? I'm not sure, Casey. I know you probably told me that already. I apologize, but we'll get it done. 3 is big time, Casey, because if we don't get it done this time, then you got that 6 months. So we want to make sure we get it done, right? Thanks, Nia, for joining us from LinkedIn. We broadcast to LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and I've got a notification today that Facebook, for some reason, is not broadcasting. So I don't know if that's me or Facebook or whatever. But thank you so much for joining us. 24, General Securities Principle being minted tomorrow. We're sending you good energy, Nia. Any advice besides get a good night's sleep for Nia? 24 is it's a slog. So trust yourself. I'd say be confident in yourself, Nia. Be confident in your answers. And we'll be with you in spirit tomorrow. So circle back. Tell us what
I always like to tell people if there's one thing. Always go towards the customer. The customer, it's always the customer side of it.
Yeah, Nia, I say something similar. You got to believe in human depravity, original sin. Right? If we didn't have supervisors, Nia, things would soon be running amok. I tell 24s that 24 is really babysitting 7s or babysitting yourself, and making sure there's no shenanigans going on. So yeah. I had a person who took exception to when I was giving this particular person, Brian, a hard time. He goes, "You don't trust me?" I said, "Well, no, I don't trust humanity in general, and you happen to be a member of humanity, so yeah, I guess you want to take that personal, then take it personal." Well, there you go, and then remember, I'll put some videos there for you as well. And then remember, I will start, and I'll see if I can rope Brian into this. Last year, we got so busy that we kind of didn't do as many of the evening classes that we had been doing. But there's going to go back up on the calendar at deantenney tutoring.setmore.com. And we'll be doing evening courses, options, economics. Brian did a great one. I'll link to it. What do you call that one, Brian? We roped you into?
Definition and registration of persons.
And it's been very, very helpful contributor to a lot of test-taking victories. I'll link to that as well. And if I can get Brian to, contribute, we'll get him roped into that as well. So be looking at the schedule. I don't think I have a banner for there we go. I do. So check that out. It's not there. I got again tomorrow, but if you check that out tomorrow, and then I don't know if I have any of my tutoring people here, but you also, I'm going to put back off free office hours. The office hours are only for people who have spent money either in a class with Brian and myself, one of our evening classes, or tutoring. But I'll put some free office hours back up in that same place. Again, the free office hours, to register for those, you have to have spend some money. And by the way, it doesn't have to be money with me. It could be money with Kaplan as well. If you're in my Kaplan classes, I'm teaching the SIE for Kaplan in January. I'm teaching a 7 in February, and I'm teaching a 66 in March. Same thing. Those office hours are for them as well. All right, so there we go. Boom. Did I miss that one? 24 tomorrow. There we go. Yeah, well, more man. Horrible, Nick. I think we went over this already. So Let it go, my friend. Let it go.
2 weeks max. On
Maybe I already got that. 2 weeks max. Well, that's a little unreasonable. I don't know who your firm is, Nick, but if I'm understanding you correctly, that somebody handed you some books and said you need to pass this in 2 weeks, that is pretty unreasonable. And I wouldn't call it impossible.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're missing something there, Nick. That sounds weird. So I'm not sure if it's weird because of the firm or the situation, but that's just a little ridiculous. Now, maybe I don't know how long they gave you for your SIE. And maybe, maybe I'm guessing maybe they consider that when you're doing your SIE, you get some of that. But you should sure call them to account. I hope that you have some accountability partner there, Nick, at your firm, whether it's a trainer or, whoever it is that's hiring you, that maybe you can talk to them and say, hey, this is where I'm at. And this seems like it's, difficult. Now I'm knocking out. I finished brief quizzes, and now I'm knocking out, focusing on improving on anything less. I love it. That sounds like I think you're on right track based on this chat and your previous chats. I think you're on track. If I were your accountability partner, I'd say rinse and repeat. Keep doing what you're doing, and you should end up with that P that Brian talks about. Retake tomorrow, Victoria. Any last minute advice? I've already watched your day before day of cram videos. Yeah, get a good night's rest. Be confident in yourself. More importantly, be confident in your answers. And as I always say, RTFQ, read the full question. Make sure that you're clear what you're being asked, if possible. RTFA, read the full answer set. Make sure that you know what answers are being offered to you. And, be the test. Let the test comes to you. Right? Brian, any advice for tomorrow?
Plenty of sleep.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, really, point in time, I just get good night's sleep.
It's unfortunate. I can't figure out, Victoria, how to lock down my booking page, but it's just aggravating. I don't know if this happens to you, Brian. Every once in a while, I'll show up for the tutoring session and they're testing tomorrow. I'm like, okay, it's not like we have a lot of remediation. So, Victoria, you got to go with what you got. And the reason I think sleep is so important is, I don't know about you, but when I don't get a good night's sleep, my reading skills are greatly diminished. And, so you want to make sure you're as rested, bright-eyed, and bushy-tailed as you possibly can be for this thing.
That's right.
Circle back with your testing victory. I'm not sure, Josh. I'm not sure who your test prep vendor is. I'm guessing, Josh, maybe it's Notman. Notman uses the Kaplan QBank, but they also have what they have called supplemental exams that is their own content that they use. Tend to be a little harder. That's my guess, Josh, but let us know who your test prep vendor. I'm guessing it's Notman, and they're making a distinction between the Kaplan QBank and what they give you as PDFs. So that would be my guess. But in terms of content, I don't think there's a difference. Having access to Notman's content, I would say I like their supplementals, assuming it's Notman. I do think their supplemental exams are good. They're a little tougher. They've given me permission to put a couple of their practice tests on the channel, and people always complain like, oh, this is so much more harder than, they're trying to stretch your mind and hope it doesn't go back to the same spot. But you know where I'm going with this, Josh. The best practice tests come from the guy on the screen there, Guest Keep. Those have the strongest correlation to the actual exam. So take it once and you'll have a pretty reliable score where you're at. Yeah, Brian, all in on Brian. What'd you tell? $103. Brian and I, Brian has been kind enough to sell people just the PDF of that practice exam that is on the channel where you can watch me do it, pause, and then play. But he'll sell you the PDF for $20. Is it still $20 or $22 now?
7.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't changed it either.
I think it's a great spend, a great investment, because then you can have it in front of you while you watch me do it. And then what I tell people who buy it is to put it away, and 3 days out, take that and get that final mark of where you're at. Yeah, Casey says he's going to tell you to go to bed. That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, the night before, you don't want to open up any can of worms.
Nico, that's pretty good.
That's
I can knock out the non-recourse here real quickly. Well, it doesn't have anything to do with depletion odds. Like on that, call that mind meld. There's no connection between a recourse or non-recourse loan. So if we're financing, for example, Nico, the Golden State Warriors are a partnership. The general partner is a guy named Joe Lacob, and the Warriors were purchased for $400 million. The partnership bought the Warriors for $400 million. Dean, at the time, I sat on the floor. I unfortunately didn't get invited to participate. What Lacob did was find 20 of his buddies to become limited partners. He's the general partner, and come up with a 20 million apiece. 20 partners, 20 million apiece. There's our 400 million. He took a bigger piece of that. Anyways, so let's say, he comes to me. When they bought the thing, he did come to me up for an investment. But what I thought about the current state of affairs with the Warriors, I go, what an honor. At the time, I didn't know who he was, and I blew him off. Yeah, I said, how do I get a drink here? And anyways, I said, well, okay, you gotta be better than Chris. Come in. But I say, here, Joe, here's $5 million from me. Here's $5 million, and then I want the partnership to go borrow $15 million on my behalf. There's my $20 million investment. Now, what we're hoping is that the partnership will be able to pay off the loan, right? And if case, then that means Dean doesn't ever have to pay back that $15 million. Now, here's where this comes in. If it's a recourse loan, they're telling the bank that if the Warriors can't pay back the $15 million, I personally will. The bank is going to contact me and say, hey, Dean, that investment you made in the Warriors? I go, oh, my God, yeah. Well, we need $15 million from you. That's a recourse loan. That means my cost basis, Nico, is $20 million. Now, same scenario, except now the Warriors can't, the bank can't come at me. The bank, I say, hey, Joe, here's $5 million. Here's my non-recourse note. You're going to borrow against my note another $15 million. But now I'm telling the bank that if the investment doesn't work out, they can't come after me. And then that means my cost base in this example is $5 million. Again, I think almost every test prep vendor, Nico, goes total overkill on partnerships in general. I mean, there's just way too much than I don't even think you're going to see recourse or non-recourse as relates to cost basis on the 7. And that's why
Thank you.
And then depletion allowances for a natural wasting resource. So I don't know how much oil is down there, Nico, but I do know this. If I pump a barrel and sell it, there's 1 barrel less. And the depletion allowance is to give me an incentive to go refine that replacement oil or ounce of gold. It's for a natural wasting resource. Again, I think you'll see neither on the Series 7. Brian, your thoughts? I think you concur. And Brian is mad at me for wasting all of our lives with 5 minutes on partnership.
Thanks. You know me so well. Oh, my.
Husband and wife team. Oh, well, look at that. You look like a great team there, Michelle. Look at those smiles. Oh, my God. Man, you should be in one of those orthodontic commercials or something. Husband and wife team on try 3. We both only improved 1% from first to second. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, we've been enjoying your content and Bob Bryan's materials. I don't know if that was before or after the improvement. It's kind of, I probably need some more background here on try number 3, and you improved 1%. If your husband and wife team, maybe, Michelle, maybe you're in production, maybe you got other things going on. I don't know. I'm surprised you only had a 1% improvement to the second try. And then I would like more information, I guess is what I'd say. Brian, you have any?
One, it might be with only that 1% improvement. The content's probably improving, but the test taking skills,
good point.
Probably where it's kind of disconnected.
Oh, I get it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah.
Don't overthink this stuff.
Yeah.
Make up things that the test question doesn't include.
Yeah, Michelle, I think it is a conundrum. So Brian might be on the right track there. I don't know if that makes sense, what Brian just said. Let us know in chat if that makes a certain sense. I mean, do you have an idea of what you think that the problem is not getting that bump? Because you should get a way bigger bump than 1%. I mean, that's crazy. 65 stuff. It's no walk in the park for sure. So.
That's right.
All right. Well, we're sending you good 60 testing vibes, Orlando, Florida. You got this. So circle back. Let us know about your testing victory.
My God, it's 9 o'clock in Florida. Get to bed.
Motivated, aren't they? We got some motivated people. I was telling Brian that I have this guy, it's been nice at my off-grid location. I've been able to upgrade my human capital over this last year in terms of my contractors and people I work with. I was telling Brian, this guy I love who now, does work for me. His name is Michael. And you're talking about a hard worker. I looked down to the other cabin. I saw it looked like reflector lights of somebody who was there. And I'm like, wondering who the heck is down there. And I go down there and it's like completely pitch dark. And it's like 9 o'clock and he's still under the cabin hooking up the plumbing. I'm like, Michael, Jesus, go home. We'll come back tomorrow when it's light. But I appreciate people work hard. No problem. There you go. Those are voices. That's a scary thought. I do think it's a scary thought, but if you got to have any voices in your head, taking a test, the guru and the test geek, those are good voices. That's who's hiring you Monday. I think I missed who's hiring you Monday. 24 tomorrow, Nia. I think I got that. Took 12 finals. 672 is okay.
Not bad. Not bad.
I think you're okay, Nia. I think if we with Brian's thing about erring in your judgment questions on the side of the customer, I call those judgment questions, Nia, and that is challenging on the 24. But I think Brian gave you a great heads up about when using your judgment. The 3 styles of questions on all exams are recognition. That's why the SIE, I think, is relatively straightforward. Recognition, mostly. Practical application. Can you calculate current yield, for example, and judgment. And on the 24, there's a lot of judgment questions. I think Brian gave you a good heads up on the judgment questions. Err in favoring or protecting the customer. I like that. And then again, be confident. So you got to know 72 is a good score and you have enough base knowledge to get this thing done. And I think Brian said, and I concur, I think it was you or somebody else, to not second guess yourself. That's what I mean by saying being confident in yourself and your answers. Don't be going, what if they meant? They don't. Right. So just, boy, if you're a smart person, which I'm sure you are, if you're taking a 24, one of the curses is you can use your own brain to outsmart yourself. And Nia, I had somebody, oh my God, they gave me a brilliant rationale and reasoning for a question that wasn't asked. Exactly. I said, where in the question is any of that?
I hear
it was coherent. What they said, they go, well, what I said is wrong. I go, well, no, it's not wrong, but it's wrong. So just like I say, be solid, just be solid on that in there. Yeah, I think, the 9th of this month. So, well, Brian gave you his 3-pillar program. The problem with that, even Brian's 3-pillar program, which I love, is that you do have a time constraint. I always joke the difference in comedy and tragedy is the timing. If there was just an act 6, scene 1, everybody on the stage would be alive. And your timeline and your study plan does tend to collapse. It's kind of like an option. It's a wasting asset. So you got to be really, Nick, thinking if you're going the 9th and this is the 2nd, I mean, what do you think? 2-3 days of base and a couple more practice tests. I really think, Nick, backstage, you need to go talk to your trainer, your accountability partner, and tell them where you're at right now and what you plan to do with their help and their insight, because, you want them to be on your team, particularly in a circumstance like this. And
use either Dean or my supplement.
Absolutely. Nick, again, tough love. You would be better served instead of being on Quizlet, watching Brian and I's videos. I don't like you're spending 4 hours, particularly with the time you have on Quizlet. Listen, I'm a huge fan of flashcards, but your own, not somebody else's. And on Quizlet, we don't know who those are. So I would think 4 hours would be better spent with Brian, with myself, with reading the book. So I know, Brian, am I being too harsh? You think 4 hours on Quizlet was a waste of 4 hours in terms of the timeline he's got?
I'm not a big fan of Quizlet anyway.
Yeah, I guess, Nick, both of us are saying don't spend another 4 hours on Quizlet, please. Yeah. There are other things you could be doing that would be more productive.
That's right.
Now, don't take wrong what I said. I didn't say flashcards or Quizlet aren't okay. I just said there's other things you can be doing. Ivy, I think I need to get a hold of you tomorrow about 66. I think you claimed a victory for your coaching call, and so we'll get together. I doubt there's more than one Ivy, but if there is, then there you go. I told you be careful with the Reddit. We do have sister communities. I always link to them in a pinned comment on Reddit. We have our Series 7, we have our Series 24, our Series 66. So we have a lot of sister communities, but be careful. I don't put those sister communities here because I don't want you to get a gazillion notifications from me about these kind of things. I don't, do that. That's where we have those things. And yeah, you can go a little bonkers following the Reddits. So, I mean, I think they're worthwhile. There's a couple great debriefs up there right now on the Reddit and our Reddit communities. I always joke with people who pay it forward. And so, you can check that out. But again, take it for what it's worth. Don't go down any rabbit holes. There you go. Live agents and professionals. I got to tell you this story. I ran with a crowd. I always joke that are professional drinkers, and I'm an advanced amateur. I mean, they're bartenders, they're vintners, they're people who really, take their drinking seriously. Anyways, my good friend Gary went to the doctor, and the doctor asked, how much did you drink today? Or you do drink in a day? And, gave him an honest answer. And the guy said, that can't be true. And he goes, well, no, it really is, And that crowd, everybody says hello and goodbye with a shot. Hey, Brian, welcome. Here's the Fernet. So I joke in San Francisco, where I spent most of my career. San Francisco is number one in three things per capita: books, fine dining, and booze. Nobody spends more per capita than San Franciscans on booze, fine dining, and books. I joke we're the most educated drunks in the country. But I'll tell you what, you certainly deserve that adult beverage once you've passed. I told you, Brian, I'm having on top of my Series 7 Guru studio, I'm having a guy build me a staircase with a deck up there to have a cocktail and smoke a cigar. And the contractor said, well, I'm not sure I want to build that if you're going to be drinking up there. You might fall off. I go, hey, listen, I'm not paying you to be my mother. You just build it and I'll make sure there's a railing, right? You're going to build me a railing. And I said, tell you what, build me a platform halfway up the stairs. Take a little strategic pause. One more drinking story. So we had a pub where if you drank, we had 100 different beers on tap, Brian. I was one of the investors in this place. And if you drank all 100 beers, you get this 25 ounce.
I've been doing it.
Yeah, you can fill up at happy hour price. Anyways, I had this mug there, and boy, this really pretentious young lady came in, and she says, I guess now she has no clue who I am. And she goes, I'm drinking out of this big mug. And she goes, I bet you're pretty proud of that. I go, I am. I've never set a goal and met it. This is the first goal I've ever set and met, drinking 100 different beers. I'm thinking, if I can do this, who knows what I might be able to do? If I have one chance left, should I take the last try? Well, I don't know, Daniel, how to answer that. You've got to give yourself enough time to implement a study plan. So I guess with a blank slate you're giving me, I would say reverse engineer your last try. Right. I would set the date and then go backwards in time to set up a study plan. I think Brian are pretty similar in what we think that should be. I think we're both. I think it should be 4 to 8 weeks, depending. Are you in the same? I think we're on the same timeline there. 4 to 8. What do you think?
Are we? Which test we talking about?
Yeah, well, yeah, Daniel, you didn't give us a whole lot of information here. Yeah. Let's just, for purposes of the discussion, stipulate maybe it's a 7. And let's say 8 weeks. But what I always say, when you implement that, you can speed it up or slow it down depending on what you do. But you should reverse engineer from the test that you choose. Be comfortable with that date, but then you reverse engineer your study effort from that. So,
as a matter of fact, when I do this in class team, I do the same thing. I say, okay, there's your test date. Within 7 to 10 days, there's your practice finals, right? Here's the video courses, the supplements, whichever ones you use. Prior to that is your textbook. And I also tell people the timing is not one size fits all.
No, yeah, exactly. You got to adjust it.
Right? One guy says they only gave me 2 weeks. One person says, well, the boss says, as long as I do it by the end of the year.
There you go. Right? Yep.
The opposite, which is the same bad situation on the opposite side. You don't want too much time.
You don't, because if you take too long too, then what happens? You start forgetting, the stuff that you got to bring up the caboose, right? Yeah. So you got, the train, you got a locomotive. You want to know where you're going, you look at the locomotive. You want to know where you're at, you look out the window. You want to know where you've been, you look at the caboose. And if you have too long of a time frame, what happens is you're not bringing up the caboose. Right. And so, if you got like 6 months, you forget what you did in month 1. So, it can be too short. It can be too long. I would reverse engineer from the test date. Again, I would very much recommend, Daniel, same thing I did. In these situations, you really want to be on the same page with your accountability partner or your trainer, whoever it is that's working with you, that's helping you with this. You know, Brian and I joke, I don't know about you, Brian. I consider myself, Daniel, to be a fake accountability partner. I mean, I can't hire you, I can't fire you, I can't make you do things. But, you know, when you're struggling, you want to make sure people know you're struggling and you can get help. We're here to help, but there's also people I would imagine at your firm that could be helpful as well. 65. All right. You're welcome, Nia. No reason not to be positive. I mean, with those scores,
Yeah.
you know, we don't send out positive vibes unless people, you know.
Anytime I see someone scoring in the low to mid 70s in Series 24, I know the probability of passing is over.
Very high.
Yeah.
Very high. How do I know if the inside quote in the question is telling me the bid price the market maker pays to buy or the customer pays? It's always the market maker, Clux. The bid is always from the market maker's perspective. Brian and I have a joke. He said to me, he's joking. I made a whole video out of it. I'll post it, Clux. Know your bid from your ask. Know your bid from your ask. So the customer always pays the high price, the asking price. The customer always receives the low price, the bid price. What's that called? The securities industry. I'm joking. That's called the spread. I'm not joking. That's a test question. So Brian is putting on the board here a quote. And as we said, the quote is always from the market maker's perspective. Right?
There you go.
Oh.
So customer always buys at the ask and always sells at the bid. The market maker is just the opposite. So again, unless you want to also write the market makers up there, which is just the opposite.
Well, then on 24, I actually tell people to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Right. From the customer side, they always buy at the ask. So
I always, Clux, I like the car dealer analogy, right? Clux,
Yeah.
if I go into a car dealer, I say, how much for a Lincoln Navigator? He goes, 90 grand. I go, great, I've got one. Where's my 90 grand? He says, whoa, Dean. I misunderstood you. I thought you wanted to turn money into a Navigator, and I gave you my asking price. Now I understand that you want to turn a Navigator into money. You need my bid price, 40 grand. I go, oh my God, what's that called? So, Dean, that's called the spread. The difference between what I buy Navigators at and I sell Navigators at. I was going to be a broker, but then I heard about this 5% policy. What the hell is that? Right. So now you said the inside quote, Clux. I just want to add to this. The inside quote would be the highest bid of the various market makers and the lowest ask. Right. So Brian is showing us on his whiteboard the inside quote. He's showing us the highest bid of all the market makers and the lowest ask. And that, Clux, would be on a level 1 NASDAQ data feed. A level 2 NASDAQ data feed actually shows you the market makers and their quotes. And level 3 lets you input information. Now, I'm not sure, Clux, you didn't tell us what test you're taking. If this is an SIE, then Brian and I have wasted a lot of your time. I'm joking. But, you know, Series 7, there you go. He's showing you the highest bid and the lowest ask. One other point I would know that all market makers, so Brian isn't showing you size there in his whiteboard, but all market makers, Clux, must be willing to do at least 100 shares. Now, Brian has added the size. So we're looking at market maker 1 there on the top. I'll play market maker. I'm willing to buy 300 shares at 73.05, 3 round lots. That's important, 3 round lots. I'm going to sell 5 round lots, 500 shares at 73.35. Clux, I would definitely know that if a market maker fails to honor a firm quote. So in other words, you want to buy 500 shares at 73.35. I'm the market maker and I don't do it. Very testable, all exams. That's a prohibited practice and is known as backing away. So on the test, every test, I'd be prepared for a question. A market maker fails to honor a firm quote. This is a prohibited practice and is known as backing away. Now, depending on what exam you're taking, if you have a trade practice complaint, you should know that under the code of procedure, that's going to go to the Department of Enforcement. All right. I think we did a pretty good job on that one, Brian. I'm giving. I know Brian. He loves. If we do a live stream, he doesn't get to use his whiteboard at least once. But he's so temperamental, right? I asked him to do something on the whiteboard, and every once in a while, woo, he goes right over there and knocks it out. I'm teasing him, but remember, who was it? I forget who wanted us to do like straddles and spreads. That's just this we can knock out together on a whiteboard. That other stuff we could do it on a whiteboard, but it would end up being an hour, I think. It looks like it's time for our drawing here. Let's just see what else we got. Do you have any more practice tests for the 66 we can purchase? I think you have the one with the additional notes, Brian. What else do you got?
That's it. I get this question a lot, and Dean, you kind of rail on me.
I've tried to get Brian to write more practice tests. He won't do it.
I just think there's just a ton of practice questions and stuff out there. I just want to get the one that's closest to what you score on the real test. That's why I don't do a lot.
Trust me, I've been trying to get Brian to, I even said I'd help him. We could come up with a Q bank, and his other thing, he says he doesn't want to compete with all the test prep vendors. I forget what his line is. You got a line, don't you, about not trying to be those guys? We don't want to be those guys. Can we do a quick review of SLA Observer List? It's a memory aid device to remind you, Dana, at where we place orders in relationship to the current market price. SLOB stands for sell limits and buy stops go above the current market price. I will link Dana to a video, the types of orders. Let me know in the chat. Would you like to see that as a lecture or a class replay? I have a class where you can watch me do it with a class as a replay. So it's just a memory aid. Is there such a thing? There certainly is. The bliss part of that is buy limits and sell stops. And you should definitely know, Dana, that buy limits and sell stops get adjusted, if for cash dividends, so they don't accidentally get triggered. So it is very testable. It is such a thing. It's testable. Dana, you didn't tell us what exam. It's more testable on 7 than SIE, but supplemental, Josh, or STC? I didn't know that. So supplemental, there we go. Well, I've heard, Josh, and it makes sense to a certain extent. I don't think a lot of test prep vendors try to make them harder, but when I've asked you the same question 5 different ways, the 6th time I ask it, it's probably going to be a little tougher. So I don't know if it's by design. All right, I think it's time to fire up the drawing here. Let me just see here. Our first day back, so I'm being a little more generous with how much time we're spending. I think I never want to tell people not to do more exams and questions. Now, I got to tell, I'm prejudicial. I think you should do more than other people. Brian and I have a disagreement about how many questions are necessary. Brian thinks if you're getting a good enough score, you should move on and spend that time elsewhere. But I think there's a direct correlation to how many questions you do and how you're going to do. Thursday, don't be people nervous doesn't do you any good, Michelle. So whatever you can do to build up your confidence and try and get rid of that anxiety, a certain amount of that is helpful, but if it's debilitating, it's not. So, we're not here to give recommendations about particular firms, but Edward D. Jones has been around for a long, long time. They have they're a retail shop. What I love about them is they're a partnership. I think they just celebrated their 125th year, I want to say.
I believe so, yeah.
Partnership. So, Ryan, if you could make partner, woo, all that money will flow through to you. They have a great training program. They pay people well. If I were starting out as a baby broker, that's a term of endearment. It's not a derogatory term. But I would be more interested in the support I'm going to get as a baby broker, the learning experience, the people I'm going to be spending time with, because we're going to spend more time with them. And so in that regard, I have not heard people, oh, man, Edward D. Jones, by the way, from retail customers or people who work there. So I think it's a fine firm, got a good reputation. It's not really what we're here to do, to give career counseling, but New Year, I'm just going real quick here. Forgive me, I'm using STC Kaplan. There you go. 7. Cynthia, I did get your voicemail, and I will call you tomorrow morning. Mid-70s is what I think, Brian, you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Rooney, you just need to know PACs are the early cascading cash flows, have more predictability, lower risk than tax. SIE. Options, all derivative advertising has to be pre-filed. Now they've made FINRA has actually revised that to say that if you can have it available, but for test purposes, the main one would be derivatives. Okay. Do you need to memorize? I don't know what you mean by what you need to memorize. Well, what you do need to memorize is retail communications is more than 25 people in a 30-day period. That's very testable. And you need to know correspondence is 25 or fewer in a 30-day period. And then what follows from that, very testable, is retail communications needs to be approved pre-distribution by a principal, whereas correspondent is pre or post-distribution. So that would be the test question. Nia, that's going to be Nia, right? She's going to be at 24, so that maybe be one of the things she's doing. Lecture, okay, I'll put that there for you, Dana. Let me just put I want to go back there and just put a note to myself. Okay. No, we cannot, Michelle.
There's no such thing as a quicker
hour. You're already over the hour. It would take us forever. So, Michelle, two things. You're testing Thursday. I'm going to link to an options class where you can watch me do an option class. It's an hour and a half on options. And then there's 3 videos in this series, then hedges and then advanced option strategy. I'll put those videos. That's 6 hours. We can't do it here in the time we got left. Same thing, mid-70s. All right. So, Brian, you are pretty good at picking the word for our thing. Let me choose the live stream. And choose the live stream. Let me get this down here. I like it. Snow. So if you'd like to participate in the drawing, put snow. Wait till I get it in there because I got to get it in there. Okay. Now let me go put that so everybody can see it. And I'm out of practice here. So share screen. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Wow, that's not what we want.
Oh,
yeah, let's go to that. Rabbit hole. Yeah, that's how we went down the rabbit hole on that. Let me go do that again. Let me put it over here. And boom. Let me
take a couple weeks off, Dean, and look what happens.
I like what happened. Oh, look there. I found it again. I found it again. Okay. Let me try that one more time here. Let's get rid of this. Present, share screen, stop screen. Okay, I think I got it this time. Let's see. There we go. Can you guys see that?
There we go.
Let me get the whole thing there. Let's see. Okay, here comes the whole thing. We only got 2 entries. Is that it?
Type in snow. Type in snow.
Snow. If you'd like to participate, there we go. There's 3. There's 3.
Or the coaching call.
Now we got it. Now we got it. I think it's working. And then let me put remember, you got to claim this. Marcel, you still have, I think, a couple coaching calls that you're due. So make sure you tell me when you want to do that. All right. And then you got to claim within an hour. If you don't claim that within an hour, I'm going to start being more aggressive. Then I'm going to say, sorry, somebody said, well, I should have taken a screenshot. I go, you don't need to take a screenshot because I'm pretty aggressive in telling you that you need to send an email, not a screenshot. All right, here we go. We ready to do the drawing? Last call. Last call. All right, boom.
And the winner is
Casey. Hey. I think Casey, okay, here's how it works, Casey. I think I already owe you a coaching call. And if true, I'm pretty sure it is. That means instead of 2 30-minute coaching calls, you get an hour for your coaching call, which means we can cover a lot more ground in an hour than we can in 30 minutes. So send me that email and you'll hear from me tomorrow morning. We'll get it set up and get that. That's a $225 value because that's what I charge for tutoring by the hour. So woohoo! What a great payoff. So yeah, so just figure out, by the way, it's more helpful too. You don't have to, but when you win the coaching call, if you have an agenda, it's a little more helpful for me to help you if I know what you want to talk about. All right. Let's get rid of that. Remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. Chat is open. Mom thinks I should say, Brian, yard by yard, your exam is hard. Inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. So let me know what you think the order should be in that phraseology. We've been using for years. Inch by inch, your exam's a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. Brian, you say?
Stay with what you know. Keep it simple. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
Oh, that's so beautiful, man. That's beautiful. All right, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. And I'll put up a overtime session for that as well. All right. Bye-bye. Prosperous New Year's 2024. Let's kill it.